Hello guys, welcome to today's live stream. The time may have varied slightly, if you have noticed. And that's because I forgot that in the UK, our clocks went back, so I'm now back in sync with the markets. But yeah, welcome to the live stream. We're going to be going over some charts of interest as always. We're going to go over some of the data that's come out. Obviously, pound has rallied higher today. Dollar's had a really bad sort of couple of days. And we kind of talked about the strength in the US dollar at the start of the week. We then pointed out a few resistance zones. Price came into those resistance zones, and instead of sort of establishing itself above those zones, instead we had a bit of a bearish rejection, and since price has been falling. So we were pointing out those levels again and having a little look at what happened at those points, those turning points. We'll be talking a little bit about the data that's dropped recently. Obviously, we had the Bank of England hold interest rates today, so we're going to go over cable. I did quite like the idea of pound yen to the upside, but haven't followed through with anything there. So I'll actually bring that chart up in a moment and we'll talk about that at some point. Just grab that here. You can see it's starting to become a little bit bullish again here on the hourly chart here. So yeah, we will discuss pound yen as well in a little bit of detail. Just try and load the chart in there, and I'll just drag that over here so we can go over that. Kick it off with the dollar as always. But who have we got in today? So it's Justin. Hello. I'm doing really well, thank you. Hope you're well. Good afternoon, Vincent. Hope you're doing well as well. So yeah, let's crack on with a little bit of the data that's come out. Let's just change the view here. If you are new to the stream, then hit that subscribe button. We do live streams every Tuesday and a Thursday, so you're more than welcome to join those. But yeah, let me just change the view here so that we can see a little bit more of the chart, and also we will grab the data in here. As always, I'll just zoom in a little bit so you'll be able to see that a bit better. Okay, so data today, let's scroll down to Thursday. You can see we had CPI data, Swiss. We actually saw Swiss weaken a little bit as well. And the Swiss franc was something that I quite like the opportunity to see continue to weaken this week. We talked about Aussie Swiss long, which turned out to be a really good performing currency pair to watch if you did watch that pair. We also talked a little bit about Euro Swiss, I believe, which also looks very good as well for potential long ideas. So we will kind of cover those once more. But Aussie Swiss I felt was a really good market to watch, and it did react. It moved about 50, 60 pips, which doesn't sound like a lot, but for Aussie Swiss, it is a decent size. Aussie Swiss doesn't range that much in terms of daily price action. So 50, 60 pips out of an Aussie Swiss pair is pretty good. You can see here, like I said, we had the official bank rate, 5.25% here. We also had the bank rate vote going from 405 to 306, and then we've got the Bank of England Governor Bailey speaking, and then we had the unemployment claims in the US, which actually rose to 217k, also fueling a little bit of that US dollar weakness that we've seen in the markets. Obviously, dollar data yesterday, manufacturing PMI came in a lot lower as well, which was another reason why we saw the US dollar start to weaken quite significantly. Obviously, then the big statement was the federal funds rate. I think everyone was more involved into looking at that rather than looking at the opportunity of everything else that happened in terms of the US PMIs and the non-farm payroll data, which we get tomorrow. So yeah, non-farm payroll is going to be an interesting one. Can we see a dollar sort of rebound to the upside there? Just give me 2 seconds, guys. Just need to do a little bit of work here. Got 2 seconds here, guys. Right. Also, let me know what you are up to as well. What kind of charts you're watching. Obviously, I always like to go and see what you guys are up to as well. So please let me know. Bradley, welcome. So yeah, let's jump into the US dollar index. Let's break down this market first. Just pop that away. Right. So going on to the sort of 4-hour time frame or even the daily time frame, these were the kind of levels that we were looking at going into this week. Prices obviously came down from these lows around about the 105 spot 50. We moved to the upside, came up towards the 107 spot 25s, which were actually the highs of October, and we ended up rejecting that, and price is now starting to move back to the downside. So the next sort of logical level for the dollar index to come back into is these sort of lows that formed in October. Now that 105 spot 50 level once again is a sort of more likely area for price to come back into now, because this is the sort of key lows that, and I always like to say this, you know, it's always important to look at where price has been in the past, where it's rejected from. Trying to trade in the middle of a move is very difficult to do, but when you've got the sort of the highs and the lows, it just makes more sense that there's more potential opportunities to try and take a position in that scenario. I'm not saying that you can't trade in the middle. Obviously you can. We have sort of trend trading strategies that we use here with the 50 moving average, for instance, where you can try and take advantage of that. It's just not as sort of strong as looking at this area here, for instance, where price came up into the 107.25. You can see the reaction here. If I go to a 15-minute time frame, one of those really nice trading patterns formed in terms of the double top pattern, which is something I always look to try and talk about in our sessions. The double top is always good because what it shows you initially is that sellers have come in at the level of resistance, right? So level of resistance hit, selling pressure comes into the market. Price then goes back because essentially still trading with the overall trend of the market for that particular day. So for instance, price then comes back and revisits that high. What's nice here as well, if we actually just look at the stochastic down here, there is actually a little bit of divergence. You've got price making a higher high and the stochastic oscillator making a lower high. So there is a sort of divergence between price, and then look what happens to price after the fact. You get that nice little move to the downside. Obviously, if you use volumes as well, and you look at things like footprint, and you look at things like market profile, volume profile, you'll know that there was a lot of selling pressure coming in at this level. Lots of buying pressure as well, because what we tend to see is very aggressive buying into a particular high, and then we can get that sort of turnover, and that's what happened here, and the dollar's just continued to move to the downside. So really, it doesn't make sense to try and sort of buy the US dollar down in here at this current moment in time. Although seasonally the dollar is quite bullish, we've got this 105.50 level now. So if I just go to a monthly chart, we'll see how the dollar index closed on the month. It was a little bit like a little doji candlestick there, so wasn't anything too significant. Could we start to see that sort of start to roll over? So that essentially monthly high and monthly low is going to be very, very important going forward. I feel like if we try and break through last month's low, essentially, which is this 105.50, and we trade through that low, then it opens the door up to potentials for the dollar to move even lower. You've got this swing low down here, or this swing low down here, which is around about sort of, what is that, 104s sort of area here, or maybe even the 105s, and that's more like the 104.50s. So dollar's got a lot of work to do here if it's going to remain bullish. It's got to come back down into this 105 spot 50, and it's got to find support. It's got to try and bounce in and around that area. So we'll be keeping an eye on that one definitely in the near future. But yeah, Vincent, what are your favorites pairs for the remainder of the week? That's a really good question. I quite like the sort of Swiss pairs. Like I said, Swiss pairs to me are looking pretty good. Euro pairs are starting to kind of come a little bit strong as well. And like I said, a couple of the yen pairs I quite like as well. But Aussie Swiss was my favorite one going into this week. And if you have a look at the weekly chart of Aussie Swiss, you can see that from the low to high, it's done about 125 pips this week. And basically what we looked at earlier in the week was, again, we kind of have a little bit of divergence going on in terms of prices made kind of like an equal low. If a divergence can look a little bit strange in certain ways. If you go to a line chart here, just like that, you can see that we have a lower low in price, but the stochastic is a higher low. Now, that might not mean a lot. You know, a lot of people think that indicators aren't that great or whatever and things like that. But from a higher time frame point of view, they can work really well. And obviously you can see here very sort of strong divergence there, and that's a weekly time frame. So it's a little bit more sort of accurate than a sort of 5-minute transition essentially. So you've got that there. Obviously we have this sort of trend line resistance that was coming through as well. Price has breached that to the upside. So yeah, lots going for it, Aussie Swiss. And you know me, I like that weekly chart and I like to identify what's happened. So Aussie Swiss came into these swing lows in here. And I still think this is, you know, one of my favorite pairs going forward. It was the 0 spot 65.25. Sorry guys, I've changed my charts around. I had a white background, but it was hurting my eyes a little bit, so I've just changed them all again. So apologies for changing charts once more, but here we go. And then these highs in here, which is around about that 59 handle, is where I'm kind of expecting the price to try and come into next, right? Because it just makes, you know, the most sense. Why would price go from that low in here? Well, it's because buyers got involved at this point in the past and drove prices higher. Why would they get involved there? Why are they going to come back to this point? It's because a lot of selling pressure took place at that point. Okay, so I like the idea of price coming to try and reach that, which is still another 75, you know, if you measure to the high of it, 100 pips to go. So there's still a little bit of you know, work to be done here. I'm just going to pop that on there. Going down to the daily time frame, this is where I thought that we might start to see a little bit of selling pressure coming in, just because we know that because it's a weekly chart, nothing goes in a straight line, right? We don't usually see, apart from this sort of instance here, we don't typically see that. What we often see is those sort of trending pullbacks, don't we, and things like that. We haven't got that this so far. Price is just continuing to push higher. And even if we go down to the likes of the 4-hour time frame, you can see that we've had sort of very minimal pullbacks. But what's interesting now is we've come into this high, okay? So this is the area that we pointed out the other day. So it's around about the 58.25 level. So we'll just pop that in as well. 58.25 and 58.25. So this zone in here is pretty much where I expected price to come into. And now we are starting to see a little bit of selling coming into the markets at this point, which is, you know, logical because price was in a range here. Okay, we've broken down through that range low. We're now approaching the range high. So I expect some kind of selling to come in at this moment. It's if price can trade back above it, can we then go and target the 0 spot 59? Also, we've just got to expect a little bit of a pullback. So I'm just kind of watching this market now, seeing if we can come back into some kind of support. It's unclear to where the support is from a 4-hour point of view. Hourly point of view, we've got these kind of areas down through here and about the 0 spot 58 handle. I'd be interested to see how price reacts back at this low, because I would be expecting if buyers want to try and keep price higher, then we shouldn't really, you know, break down. If we do break down, we've got the next level of support coming in. Okay, but because we're trading it from sort of that weekly bias, we've got to expect some kind of pullback. Let's say this week closes like this. Next week I'd expect, you know, a little bit of a drop before continuing to push higher. So although the Aussie Swiss is one of my favorite charts, we've still got to be aware that price will start to pull back a little bit. But that 59, I mean, it looks so clean as well. The sort of price action here looks really clean. So Aussie Swiss, definitely one of my favorites to keep your eyes on at this current moment in time. Another one that I had an eye on as well was Euro Swiss. I still quite like Euro Swiss to the upside. Very similar reasoning behind this as Aussie Swiss, but we're starting to see a little bit of Euro bullishness. That's obviously, could be down to the fact that the US dollar is weakening a little bit. We do have sort of a channel going on here, but again, look at price when it comes into this weekly low in here, right? We have a big zone of support. If I go to the daily chart and I just zoom out, you can see that buyers came back in here quite aggressively back in September of 2022. We were back into that range there, and now we've broken back to the upside. So I'm looking to see, can price come back even higher? Can we come back and seek another area of resistance, which I think around about the 0 spot, 96.75, could be the area to watch out for, which is this area just through here, right? So this is where I'm kind of looking to see, can Euro Swiss break into these kind of areas here? So let's put it as 68, 96, let's go 96.75. Okay, we'll go like that. And that zone above there would be a nice area to target. Again, 4 hour, look, the 4 hour is in a bullish trend. The market is making higher highs and higher lows, right? So nice little double bottom there on the 4 hour. We're now back at these swing highs. So I want to see price try and trade through those highs. That would make me a little bit more comfortable looking for the long. Alternatively, can price come back down to where these buyers got involved in the past? And can we, essentially look for longs around that point? So yeah, I quite like the idea of either these lows coming into play around about the 0 spot, 95.60, 95.70, or can we see price trade through the current highs at 96.28 and then get above that essentially? So yeah, Euro Swiss, another one that I particularly like. Other pairs, so I did quite like the idea of pound yen to the upside. Obviously last month closed nice strong little sort of bullish candle there. Pound strength and weakness is, it's kind of floating around a little bit. We've still got to remember that inflation in the UK is quite high. So although the Bank of England held, they might hold rates for sort of longer. Now, looking at this from sort of a breakdown point of view, if we just stick to this daily chart here, let's have a little look at sort of the market here. So we've got these highs that are obviously very important to price. I would like to see sort of the market move towards this swing high. That would be 186.35. Maybe that, let me just move this over here. 186.50 would be a nice level on pound yen. We traded through again, a little bit of resistance here, price finding resistance at the trend line, and we've kind of traded through that. So that's all looking good. Quite like the fact that we've come from these lows as well. I always like to see how does price react to key swing lows. I mean, if I just drag this over here, for instance, look at that reaction. So you've got that sort of wick and body there. So that's your zone of support. And then look at that wick into that level. And then price has obviously moved away from there. So buyers have got involved down through here. At the moment, we're in a bit of a range, aren't we? Price has kind of come from this little zone, but we closed above that range. That's making me think that there's a potential for price to try and break higher. Yes, yesterday we've closed back within it, which isn't the greatest, but looking at the price action, there's a very sort of aggressive buying going on yesterday, or well, this week, sorry. And that's what's making me think there's another idea of price moving higher, because if we were to get short from the range high, I expect some kind of follow through, some kind of aggressive selling. Look, price came into this high, we had some aggressive selling. Price came into the high, followed by aggressive selling down to the lows again. We've come into the high now. We haven't really seen that sort of aggression in sellers at the moment. So And we know that the yen's weak, right? We know yen is weak. We know from dollar yen that price has traded higher as well. So yeah, I quite like the idea of pound yen. I was looking today to see a breakup of the 50, so like in these areas here, to look for the opportunity. But because it was Bank of England data today, I stay away. I try and stay away from those large data sets when it comes to the markets. So I'll wait to see how the dust settles really, and then can price continue to make its move higher. A little bit different on euro yen. We traded through this key sort of level of resistance, or this range essentially that the market has been in for some time. Again, very similar. We traded outside of that range. We're now trying to find our sort of buyers in and around that point. So at the moment we're trading at 160. So you've got the sort of psychological number there of 160. So I'm looking to see if we can get a bit of a pullback. In fact, I was watching the 30-minute time frame, and I can see that we're starting to push sort of higher here on the averages. But there's a nice little sort of area down here where I think price might want to try and find some support again, especially down into these highs, which is around about 159 spot 57. If we can try and see some buying potentially come in there, I think that would be a nice area to look at for cable. So in and around that 159.56 sort of zone would be ideal through there. So yeah, that's what I'm kind of watching to see how price, because 160, a little bit of a level, we can see that it was support, resistance. So I don't really want to be involved just there. But if it can pull back, we're going to have like, a good few pips to that point. And then if it breaches, that's when obviously we can try and get some kind of further gains on that. What's your view on Kiwi dollar? Well, Kiwi has turned out to be a little bit stronger now, hasn't it? If I actually bring in let's see if I've got it here. Have a little look at the currency strength meter. So what we were looking for was that Kiwi sort of continuation, and it has been continuing to sort of push to the downside ever since it kind of hit that sort of +6 area. It did start to move lower. Let me just zoom in a little bit. Move over slightly. So yeah, I mean, it was at the sort of -4s going into this week for me anyway, and I was expecting that sort of Kiwi weakness to sort of remain. That hasn't really happened. We've actually seen a little bit more of a push higher in Kiwi, especially Kiwi dollar. But is that down more to that sort of dollar weakness? And guess what? Dollar was at the +5, right? That's where we start to look for the potential reversal zone. And you can see dollar was at +5 again, showing that it was getting a bit stronger. So let's open up Kiwi dollar, Vincent, actually. Let's go and grab that chart. Where is it? Here we go. Let's go to the weekly chart. So initially my thoughts were there's potential for price to try and come down towards this low, and obviously it could still happen. It's still early days. We're still early into November. That was the area of interest essentially. We've been trading down. We've broken through this sort of range area through here as well, which is something we discussed in recent videos. That sort of area through there, and price found resistance at that point, and then we had that nice little breakdown. If we go to the daily chart, however, and we just zoom out a little bit, we were discussing this low here as a potential point for price to come into, right? Which is kind of this zone. Okay, now the reason why we were looking at that is because there was this sort of resistance, support. Okay, so we have that kind of supporting zone through there. So that was a little bit of a sticking point. I did think that the price might want to try and pull back at that point. Did I think it was going to pull back to the extent it has? Probably not. I expected probably a bit of a breakdown and a move down into this sort of area. But at the moment, Kiwi is finding a little bit of strength. If we look at the 4-hour time frame, we've broken through sort of multiple averages. You can see as well, we've had that sort of head and shoulders pattern come through. I liked remaining short as long as price could stay in that sort of 4-hour trend. Okay, so what I mean by that is, as long as price kind of stayed below this level, I was happy to be short Kiwi dollar. In fact, I was short Kiwi dollar at one point this week. I got stopped at break even. I was trying to target this swing low, and price just kind of reversed on me and took me out. But yeah, that zone there was where I was saying to myself, nothing changes if price stays below that in terms of trend. Once price trades through that area, things start to change in terms of technical trend. Obviously, we have resistance levels up here that price may want to react from and push down from back to that sort of zone. But for me, I feel like the makeup of the market is slightly changing here. So Kiwi dollar wise, I'm kind of just holding off for right now. I can see your message. Sorry, I've entered a short position on Kiwi dollar at 59.04, stop loss at 59.34. I'm looking at how it will play out. Let me just put those on the screen. So let's just grab this. We'll put your entry in yellow, just so I can see it a bit visually on the screen. 59.04. Okay. And stop loss we'll put in red, 59.358. Okay, so yeah, I can see what you're doing immediately. You're looking at this zone in here, right? That kind of 4-hour high in there. Price coming into these highs as well. And you put your stop loss above that high, which is perfect. And you're looking at that rejection through there. I can definitely see that and why you're looking at that move. Let's have a little look at the 15-minute time frame in here, because again, this is where I like to kind of go in, try and look for divergences, try and look for key chart patterns. Now I can immediately see there is some divergence. You've got price making higher highs in here. You've got the stochastic making lower highs. So yeah, definitely looking at that, it gives me the idea that there's divergence between price and the indicator, and I mean there could be some short-term downside play. I quite like the idea of price coming into these lows first. If it does come into these lows, I think we should look at some potential trade management at that point. Maybe look at stocks to break even or something, because you don't want the trend to kind of continue from that point and then price start to move higher, essentially. But yeah, I quite like that. So the stop loss is around about 30 pips towards that lows, around similar, around it's about 28 pips just below. Obviously you've got this kind of high down here as well, around 48 pips, which could be targets. But yeah, I can see what you're looking at there. I can see the fact that you're looking at prices come into this key resistance level, and on the lower time frames it's showing that there's a potential for a reversal setup. So yeah, I don't think there's anything particularly wrong with that. The only thing I would say is that we're seeing the dollar weaken, and Kiwi's getting a little bit stronger. So what has to happen for Kiwi dollar to move lower is we've got to see the dollar start to strengthen. And although, yeah, we're back at this swing low in here, there's a potential for it to come to 105.50 before it makes that jump. So yeah, I'd be a little bit hot on that one. If you can try and get your stops to break even as quickly as possible, then I think that's always going to benefit you at that point. And just watch it when it comes into the lows. You've got, this is where buyers have stepped in the past. Price should try and reach that again. If it does, then you've got the opportunity to control your stop losses then, and yeah, look for that potential move. So yeah, that's nice move in there. Nice little level. It's quite similar to sort of what I was looking at here on Euro, to be honest. I ended up taking, just before the live stream, I ended up taking a short position in here, and came out for about 10-15 pips. I was looking just to see how price would react into this daily high. Price has been so bullish all day. I was watching it this morning down here, and I like to use sort of volume profiles and things like that. There was a point of control which was around about here somewhere, and I really like the idea of price coming into that point of control, and I was expecting a little bit of a reaction at that point, but we just straight through it, and we've come all the way up into these this key swing high here now, and you can see the bearish reaction we're starting to have. So yeah, there's obviously some selling pressure coming in at the moment. We've just got to be careful that the momentum from the day doesn't continue and push prices higher. What I would like to see is some kind of double top. Like I said, if we can get another move into this level, a little bit of divergence going on, a bit of a sort of, you know, something like that, I think then we could probably see a little bit of lower prices again for euro. But yeah, euro dollar's looking pretty good here. If you're looking at it from the short term perspective, if you go to the 5-minute time frame, this is what I was technically trading here, that little double top in there. Okay, and then prices continued to push lower. So yeah, euro dollar looking pretty good there. What other charts were we into this week? Aussie Swiss we've talked about, pound yen we've talked about, cable we've kind of, have we gone over cable too much? Let's have a little look at cable, because this is the sort of talking point today with regards to the Bank of England and stuff like that. So we've started to see a little bit of a move higher. I wanted to see if there was any kind of levels to watch here. So let's just kick it off with the daily. And again, I'm just going to plan out sort of my key highs and lows. Obviously, the sort of major swing highs up towards the 1.31 handle. But let's go and have a little look at what's down here, because price is closer to this support zone at the moment, which is around about the 1.2050 is where I'm looking at as support. And you can see there's almost like a, would you say it's a descending triangle coming in here, you know? And typically they can be sort of, yeah, especially in a trend, these can be sort of quite powerful, especially if it breaks to the downside. The risk of it breaking to the downside is you've got this low down through here. So that could be something to watch out for as well. Okay, where's that low? We'll put in a little tag here. 1.8125 we'll go for. I'll round it up to 50. I like the half numbers on cable. Yeah, other than that, it's about looking a little bit more closely at what price is doing right now. Let's have a look. Got this high, which is going to be of some importance if we reach it, obviously. So around about the 1.2265, something like that. That'll be a nice area. I think if price was to reach that, there could be some kind of selling pressure coming in at that point, as well as obviously where we're finding loads of support now is all the way down towards these lows in here, around about that 1.21 handle. Okay, 4-hour time frame. Yeah, not really much going on here at the moment, I don't think. I would like to see price kind of trade up towards this area. 1.2250 and above, I think, would be nice to see price come into before looking for any kind of opportunities at that point. I haven't focused on cable too much, to be honest. I've been looking more towards sort of what euro's doing. Euro's obviously been swinging quite a lot. So I've been looking for that really in line with the sort of dollar index. But pound, definitely something is on the watch there. You know, I'd like to see price come a little bit higher, maybe towards that 122.65, because on the 4-hour time frame we can really kind of narrow that into that high there. If price was to get to that point, I think we would be looking at sort of how price reacts in and around that area there. Unless we got some kind of change in trend really on this hourly time frame. But you can see we're just range bound. Look at the averages, they're just all over the place really, not really showing any kind of trend direction at all. So yeah, I think the obviously downside. Obviously, from a higher time frame point of view, we're bearish. But at this current moment in time, for the past few weeks, we've just kind of ranged, which isn't really what we want to see if we want to be looking for those key opportunities. So the important thing is in a ranging market is we identify the highs and the lows and what happens at those potential highs. Can price come into those highs? Can we look for any kind of opportunities around those points? Hi, Bongo. Hope you're doing well. Gold. Kiwi, yeah, we looked at Kiwi. I was looking a little bit at a gold yesterday. I like the idea of price coming into sort of that 2050 level. And yeah, we'll see if anything kind of happens if it does reach that point. At the moment, we're just kind of flirting around this high, this 1980 area. There's no real sort of advantage to that point at the moment. So yeah, I'm not really seeing much going on there at this current moment. But look at the daily chart. You can see nice strong bullishness, and then we're starting to get that slowdown in those daily sort of candlesticks. So maybe gold's one to watch going into tomorrow. Usually when you see a very low ranging candlestick on gold, the next day can be quite aggressive. So keep a note of that. Euro, US dollar. Yeah, we've kind of just gone through euro. These are the sort of levels I'll be looking for on euro. Let me just put the levels in actually. So really just watching these daily levels of interest, which was around about the 1.0675. And then we can just control that down. We've got these lows down here, obviously. 104.50 we can probably go with there. Or actually, let's just go 60 on that, just in the middle of that. And obviously price has been found in some support recently through here. But what I'm watching is how price reacts to these highs. Do we get strong selling pressure coming in? We're seeing that at the moment. You can see price starting to develop to the downside. I probably could have held my short here, to be honest. So yeah, it would have been about 24, 25 pips up. But yeah, we're obviously starting to see a little bit of selling pressure coming in here at the moment. Whether that will be sustained is, again, something we've got to watch out for. I like to see if it's going to be sustained, that we should get a lower high at some point, or, double top or anything like that. And then we can start, really kind of narrowing in on getting involved. Very much like what happened down here. We come into support, we get an aggressive push away, but then price comes and tests that support again before seeing a continuation. I want to see something similar here now. Does price come back up? Do we reject? Do we get that sort of flip in dynamic then from a trend point of view? Okay, so yeah, but yeah, I could have probably held that short, to be honest. I got a really nice entry up here, but it came out for about 15 pips profit, and just before the stream. So yeah, would have doubled that. But yeah, nice rejection in there. I think the important thing is, though, we are starting to see that dollar index starting to bounce, but I do think that 105.50 area is going to be pretty important. I suppose we must kind of argue that there is sort of a daily wick down in here. So this could be where buyers are happy to sort of get back involved. Almost kind of looks like a bit of a liquidity grab as well, doesn't it? A break below the low here, and then buyers stepping in. So yeah, maybe you'll get something like that. We do have a gap here as well, so maybe price is going to go and try and fill that gap on the dollar index. Right then, guys, we've been running for about 40 minutes or so. I'm probably going to leave it there. How tight was my euro dollar stock? Well, I was trading euro futures, so it was very, very tight. It was about 4 pips. Hi, Rago. Yeah, so guys, thanks for joining me today. I'm going to leave it there. Done about 40 minutes or so. But yeah, thank you for all for you for joining me today. I really appreciate all your comments, questions as always, and thank you for sharing your trades with me and things like that. I really appreciate it. And yeah, I will catch you on Tuesday now, so it'll be this earlier time as well. And yeah, I will catch you on Tuesday. Like I said, thank you for joining me as usual, and I hope you have a good rest of your day. Cheers, guys.